you're aware of that, and you can have a speak from the area or talk as you see fit. Are we recording?
Right.
Well, good evening, welcome to the full town council meeting.
I'm on time.
Yeah, we've waited a second.
Thank you. Right, get the door.
So we'll start. So starting with me and Chair's remarks. I'm Rachel at the moment, but obviously we've run our Play in the Park events over the summer and they've been successful as they always seem to be. The last one is this Friday in Myrtle Park for people that want to come along. We had the August market and I wasn't able to attend, but it did seem to be better footfall and better stalls, so we're hoping for even better things for the coming September market on Saturday. Bradford did put in their levelling up bid for Bingley. It was submitted on the 1st of August. We still haven't formally been told what's in it, but we do still believe it is the pool building being completely refurbished, extended as a cafe and work to partially cover the market square and the public realm between the two. We have been informed by Bradford that the Charities Commission have now set up the trust for the money for the Priesthorpe Annex, and it's called the Alfred Sharp Educational Trust. So hopefully now Bradford will be able to move forward and release some of that money for causes that put in grant applications to them. I don't know if anyone else has seen it, but Daymart on the side of the building are putting up a lovely mural of the canal and the bits that it goes through from Riddlesden all the way down to Esholt with 6 different panels on it, and it's certainly better than the graffiti I saw that was there before. So thanks to them for making the place look better. I think I probably need to end on a negative note, which is obviously we are going into the autumn. Electricity and gas prices are going up. We are expecting some residents to struggle as they come through that. I know there's been some talk in the press about people setting up warm banks, effectively places where people can go, where there will be heating and lighting, and that might be something that we as a council want to consider whether we can support people with that as we get into and go through the winter. But I think that's just one of those things that's coming over the horizon towards us that we need to be cognizant of. So I think that's enough from me. So moving on to 22, 23, 86, apologies for absence. We've got a number. We need to take an individual.
Yeah, we've got them from Councillor Barton, Councillor Dawson, Clough, Curdale and Winard, and Meyer.
I'll propose that.
Yeah. All in favour of absence?
Yeah.
Okay. 22, 23, 87, disclosures of interest, to receive declarations of interest from councillors and items on the agenda. Are there any declarations? No. And then to receive written requests for dispensations with disclosure of interest. None of those. Okay. So moving on. 22, 23, 88, minutes of the previous meeting. Has anybody got any corrections to propose to the minutes of the previous meeting?
No. I'll propose them.
Proposed by Councillor Trevor.
Seconded.
Seconded by Councillor Williams. All in favour? I think we've got one abstention, 2 abstentions.
I'm saying
3 abstentions. 22, 23, 89. confidential items to be discussed in confidence at item 10. Is there anything that anybody thinks needs to be moved confidential? No? I'll move swiftly on then. 22, 23, 90, public participation. We've got some members of the public here. Donald, would you like to say anything?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And then Chris is the next agenda item anyway, so 22, 23, 91, presentation from Community Action Bradford District.
Right, my name's Chris Hancox. I'm relatively recently appointed development worker for Community Action Bradford and District to work on a project called Here for BDCC. We've got a very full agenda, so I'll be as brief as possible. If there are any points that you feel that you want to discuss with me outside the meeting, the presentation that Eve sent around has got my contact details on. Please feel free to get in touch to discuss anything. It's a new project and we need input from different organisations and people in order for it to work. So please feel free to get in touch with me. This evening I'm going to be concentrating on what the project can offer in practical terms to organisations in the area. I am actually, my geographic area to support organisations is the Shipley constituency. So I'm going to talk to yourselves and the area office and the Shipley Town Hall, etc. We will get a chance for brief questions at the end if I'm quick enough. So what is Here for BDCC? It stands for Here for Bradford District and Craven Community, so we're covering the entire area. We're not leaving out the outlying areas. It has happened in the past. It's a partnership between Community Action, Participate, we're based in Keighley, the VCS Alliance, Hale, CNET and others. So the idea is bringing everything together under one roof so you don't have to kind of go to different places for different pieces of advice. So you can go, if you've got any sort of questions or any kind of needs, you can talk to me. It might not be me that actually deals with it, but you can get in touch. I will make sure that the right people know about this situation and get in touch with you in order to help and support the organisation or yourselves individually. So what do we do? Very quickly, we do capacity building, which I'll cover in a minute, volunteering. We do, there's a project called Information and Insight, Voice and Influence and Citizens Engagement. So I'll just briefly cover those. So capacity building is really about supporting organisations or individuals wanting to start organisations. So we've got a team, I believe, at the moment, about 7 development workers, because this project represents an increase in the investment that Bradford Council are putting in to the sector to be able to support it through what could well be very difficult times, but also so they can play a more active role in the whole thing, in the community, and share information, experiences and knowledge. So our capacity building, we talk about governance, so we look at the way that organisations are governed, the way that they're structured, so that, helping set up organisations, charitable incorporated organisations, trusts, etc. I noticed the Chair mentioned about a trust that have just been set up. But we also look at project developments, so if somebody's got an idea, it would be great if we could do this. You need to actually think it through in terms of developing a project that you can deliver on the ground, where you're going to get the money from, how are you going to structure it and all that kind of thing. Fundraising, obviously a very important part of any organisation's work. Without the resources to do the work, you're not going to get anywhere. Volunteering as well. We help people set up the right kind of structures within the organisation, because it's not normally a case of just going, oh, we'll get some volunteers, Fred will do something, get Fred in. You've got to have some kind of structure within the organisation to support the volunteers, make sure that they receive the right training, the ongoing support, that they're aware of how things operate, for instance, around claiming expenses and such like. We also have safeguarding, which is my lead area. clearly what that's about is the way that the organisation operates to protect vulnerable people. Either children who are all classed as vulnerable, or the terminology now is adults at risk. So people who are, may have some kind of disability, some sort of condition, whether it be physical or mental, that means that they need protecting. I'm not saying that voluntary organisations are full of predators, but it's important that you have the right structures in place to protect people. But it's also about protecting your volunteers, about protecting your members of staff, because it's a two-way process. Enterprise and training, some organisations, part of the community work that they do, they have some form of training, might be a little cafe. Again, we've got people who can help maximise the income that they get in, or maximise the benefit that they give to the people coming in, because it's not all about training is not all about making money, especially in the charitable sector. Marketing and social media, that speaks for itself. We've got people who can help you set up accounts and manage accounts in the right way so you engage with people. Financial planning and management probably applies a lot more to larger organisations than smaller ones. But again, it's important that you don't go off on a sprint spending money, you get halfway through your project, you run out. And so it's about planning the amount of money that you're going to need is reasonable and sensible, but also managing that money so that you can make sure that it does what you've said it will do and that it lasts. Monitoring and impact assessment, that's just about, a lot of funders will say, we'll fund you to do 10 training courses for 15 people on each training course. You need to be able to show that you've run those 10 courses and that you've got an average of, it doesn't have to be 15, if you've got an average of 13 or something like that. So again, getting you prepared for that, because some people go, oh, we've got to do a return to our funders, what do we need? And you find you haven't gathered the information in the first place, so that's not a definitive list. We are here to help you with whatever, to help organisations. So if you talk to us about what you need, we can find a way forward between us. So it's not one of these restricted projects, oh, you've got to be talking about X, you've got to be talking about Y. Who we can help, any local group that needs any kind of support. That's a bit ambitious, but it's an ambitious project. So it could be a local group, informal, just governed by a single A4-sided paper. Might just be an older person's social group. It might be a major, large voluntary organisation applying for 5 or 6, but £50,000, £60,000 to employ 2 or 3 people, whatever. Charities, what they call social enterprises, which are businesses, but sometimes called community businesses. They are trading organisations that are about benefiting the community rather than making money. But we also support businesses, so generally relatively new start businesses. And also anyone working to set up one of these organisations. If we don't do it ourselves, we can put you in touch with the right people to help you. How we work, we try and do it in a kind of inclusive way, go out to see people. It's not a question of, oh, you come to our office and we'll sit there with the shirt and tie going, talking a different language to everybody else. We like to try and be able to relate to people properly, go out, see what they're doing on their own patch, talk to people and listen. Listening is an incredibly important part of development work, so that you can know what your clients, what people you're working with. It's also important to say, we don't do things for people. So if you came to me, one of you came to me and said, involved in the group, we want to raise 15 grand for X. I wouldn't go, right, leave it with me, I'll let you know when the checks arrive. I would talk you through the process, help you understand what's going on, and help you raise that money. So next time when you go, oh, we need 20 grand, it's not a question of, oh, we've got to get help, because you might well have developed the skills inside the organisation so you can help yourself. Volunteering, we run a service linking businesses with volunteer groups that need a project doing, so quite often the business might say, we'll give you a day a day a year or 2 days a year to do some volunteering. We would maybe put a project together, you know, paint a room or do some work in the garden or something like that, and then the company would come along and do that. We also administer a quality mark for organisations involving volunteers, and we help link volunteers to available opportunities. Information, part of it is the project is about making sure that we gather information that's relevant and actually let other people know. So there's some links in the presentation to the briefing in Bradford, and also some of our social media links, so you can actually say, can you put this article in, or this piece of information in, and it will get spread. Insight, we collect information relevant to the sector, the voluntary sector, from networks and from meetings that give us insight as to what's important to you. Again, there's links within the presentation where you can do that. Insight, we need to share. It's no good getting information together, it needs to be shared. So we will be holding briefing events. There's here for BDC information channels, which are on social media and such like, and also we will put briefings out. Voice and influence, networks. We've got networks already. We're going to try and make sure we don't duplicate any, because that's only just going to annoy people. But it gives people the opportunity to come together and share experiences and develop and promote the sector. They will either be organised geographically or by theme, you know, young people or older people or such like. It's also important that one of the differences to this project is that we are going to try and have some voice and influence. For many years, the voluntary sector sat there in groups and said, wouldn't this be a good idea? And it doesn't rarely get much further than out of the door, you know, within that group. We will be getting advocates from the networks and groups to take the views of those groups and networks and present them to the decision makers. That doesn't mean they'll listen to us, but what it does mean is that when you've had a discussion and you come to a conclusion, that conclusion gets fed to the right people. They may ignore it, but at least you've had a go, and people have been told, the right people have been told of the discussions that have been had. There's a thing called the Leaders Network. That's a space for leaders to come together to help shape the sector and support them in their organisational leadership role, so that we can strengthen the leadership within the voluntary sector. There's a leadership course programme going to be starting at the end of September. If anybody's interested in that, please let me know. Citizens engagement. Again, this is something done by Hale, bringing people from diverse range of backgrounds together, and again, making sure that their voice is heard. So you can get in touch. We've got our website, is CABAD, which is Community Action Bradford and Districts.org.uk. We are developing a website for here for BDCC, which will be, strangely enough, here for BDC.org.uk. If you put that in your computer at the moment, it will give you, there's not a website there. We are close to putting it online, but I'm not going to, say exactly when, because these things are subject to a number of vagaries and things that might change. What I would stress is the Briefing Bradford newsletter. If you're not already receiving it, it's an electronic one. If you're not already receiving it, you can sign up for it via our website. That again gives you information on training, what's going on in the sector, possibly funding opportunities, various bits and pieces that people in your position may find useful. And certainly, if you're running a voluntary organisation, you may well find it useful. So, you'll be glad to know I'm just about to finish. How we can work together. I think from the council's point of view, you can refer groups to me for support. It doesn't have to be anything very specific. They might just be saying, well, we'd like to think about doing something. So you can talk it through with me. You can talk about what's involved, what support's available, so that, going on the journey of developing a new project might not be quite as onerous as it would be if you're sitting on your own with two people who've never developed a project before in somebody's kitchen, drinking tea and eating cake. You know, I would be more than happy to come along to anybody's house and drink tea and eat cake. But so feel free, refer people to me. You've got the name of my name, contact details. If you somehow misplace them, I'm sure Ian will be quite happy to supply them to you. You can put me on any appropriate mailing lists. So if you know you've got mailing lists, and certainly I understand you've got a newsletter. I'm looking at Eve now, just smiling and seeing it. I can go on that. It was suggested to me that I might put a little article together, which I will do, about so that people in the area know what support's available, and also let me know about any networks or local events I might be able to be involved in. So if you've got a little kind of charity fair type thing, I might come along with a little stall just to say, you know, I'm here to help. I can support your groups in your area, and I can keep council members' officers informed of events and initiatives. So I may well be emailing Eve on occasions, and she will be the filter, because I'm sure you get an awful lot of stuff in your direction, so she can assess whether it's the sort of thing that councillors need to know about, or what might like to know about, and if it's appropriate, circulate you an email. So, thanks for listening. I hope I've stuck to close to 10 minutes. Anybody got any questions that they want to pose?
It's obviously a very comprehensive arrangement that you've got here, looking at all the various organisations and groups that's going to set up. Have you got a team of people working with you to support it all, or is it just...
Yeah, I mean, we have been recruiting significant numbers of staff. We've gone, the community action's gone from a development team of about 3 to a development team of 7. So it does represent a step up in terms of investment. It's also a challenge.
Yeah.
You know, working with other organisations isn't always easy because you haven't got the same communication. And you know, if we were working in the same organisation, I would set up a meeting with you. I'd have a look at your diary.
Yeah.
But you can't do that when you're in somebody else's organisation.
No, that's true.
But the principle is exactly as you said, all together.
Yeah.
You know, one partnership. That is one of the strong parts of the bid that we put in. And just because people aren't formal partners doesn't mean we won't work with them. So the whole idea is to provide a comprehensive range of support to a comprehensive range of groups with the relevant expertise in place, you know, organised in the appropriate way. Now, we're not going to get it right first time, every time, but what we are doing is we're approaching it in the way that we think is the most efficient, but also, probably even more so, the best for organisations.
Yeah.
Because in the past you may well have found, oh, you can go here for this support, you can go here for that. The principle of what we do is one point of contact. So if you get in touch with me about 2 different issues, I will deal with, if I can deal with one, I'll deal with it. But I will get somebody else involved, and I will make sure that they are fully, properly briefed, that they get in touch with you, and that you report back to me and yourselves about what needs to be done.
Yeah.
So hopefully it will be a lot easier for groups to access the support they need. Right. I suspect it's going to be a little bit problematic from our end at times, but anything worth doing is always a little bit of hassle. And one of the difficulties we've had, it won't surprise you, was recruiting people.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the skills shortage, and the shortage doesn't just apply to hospitality and the NHS, it applies throughout. I applied and then I got an email saying, we'll keep your name on record for the next round, but unfortunately we didn't get enough people to warrant interviewing, so I had to wait 5 to 6 weeks before I was interviewed.
Right.
So, but there are challenges, but there are massive benefits to this way.
Presumably there's other champions like you within the district, within Bradford then?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a paid development worker, and each development worker has a geographic area.
Yeah.
And mine, as I say, is the Shipley constituency.
Yeah.
We've got all over divided into 7 areas. But we also have an area of specialism in terms of what area of work. So mine's safeguarding and volunteering. So if somebody from East Bradford needs specialist advice on safeguarding, I would go across to there. So it's not just about geographic area.
So you are actually interlinking with each other?
Absolutely.
Right.
We have regular team meetings, sharing information and such like.
Okay, Councillor Williams?
Very comprehensive.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for your presentation. In terms of us, as in being the town council and you helping us, I don't think we need any sort of governance or financial support or things like that, but we've got a youth involvement working group which is due to kick off any month now. The lead councillor is not here tonight, it's Councillor Curdale, but it strikes me as that you might be able to plug him into the youth who might be willing victims for his project. Because, you know, he's got to get interest from the community to serve on his youth involvement working group, to give us ideas of government and things like that.
Firstly, you're absolutely right. There's not a lot I can do for this as an organisation because it's not the kind of organisation that needs support because we've already got the support workers. My main reason for coming here is because councillors are dealing with the community on a day-to-day basis. So you are far more likely to come across a group that goes, oh, we'd love to do this, but we don't really know what we're doing to that extent. You can give my telephone number.
But in my particular question, you know, would that be something you could help with?
Yes.
Right, so we'll.
Yeah, I mean, I can't without having a discussion with.
Well, you've got to find out where it was, but
yeah, but I would be more than happy to meet with the lead councillor on that, discuss what their plans are, whether we can help support their planning or implementation.
We've got terms of reference agreed, we just don't have any people on the. We've got councillors on it, but no youth, and that's fundamental. So it seems to me, listening to what you said there, you can hook us up.
Yeah, it's not that simple.
Well,
because of
nothing
issues around culture.
Yes.
What we find is if you're trying to involve young people, if you have agendas, and I don't know disrespect because the agenda that you've got is appropriate to the town council, but you have to make sure you run in your meetings slightly differently.
Yeah.
Because young people, if you put an agenda like you've got tonight in front of them, they go, oh, I'm not going there, you know. So it's about making sure that the cultures match. And I'm perfectly happy to discuss that in detail with the councillor and support them in terms of any work that they do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Good.
Who actually funds community action?
It's a little package. The primary funder is the council.
We do.
There's also children's services, and there are others that escape me. They put together a little package of funding. Well, it's not really very little, you can understand. We've got network development officers, development teams, enterprise coaches, etc. It doesn't come cheap, but increasing that level of support to be able to have this one-stop approach could make a big difference to organisations throughout the whole Bradford district and Croydon area. So they pull together bits of, like a few tens of thousands from here and there and put together the package. We're not funded by grants, by the way. This is a contract. Now, it might sound a bit pedantic to say there's a difference, but there is. We are contracted to deliver things,
Right.
you know, which is a far firmer, more legally binding commitment than the example I gave earlier about training courses. If you ended up, instead of having 10 courses with 15 people, you had 10 courses on average 9 people. You're very unlikely, you'd have a horrible funder if they come back and go, we want half our money back.
Yeah.
That generally doesn't work. We are contracted. It's a commercial contract.
What's the term of year, number of years that you're contracted for? Was it
Yeah.
1 year? That's
Initially 3 years.
3 years.
We had a little bit of a slow start because decision-making processes aren't always, we could have done, to be honest with you, with sort of 6 or 8 months leading to prepare for it and get things. But we live in the real world, and it isn't going to happen.
Right.
Are you coping?
Sorry?
How busy are you?
Getting busier and busier by the day. I'm developing links. This is the first major group I've come to talk to. I'm going to talk to Shipley Town Council. I'm going to the area office in a couple of weeks. We're putting out stuff in our newsletter, etc. and so we're getting increasing numbers of people. I'm actually going out to some of the major organisations like Kirkgate Centre and such like, and introducing myself, telling them who I am. I need to get known. People need to know what the services are available. Hence me sitting here.
Yeah. Good.
No more questions? Thank you very much, Chris. Interesting, and I'm sure we'll push some people in.
Absolutely, the more the merrier.
And don't feel you need to stay as well.
Right,
You're welcome to.
I would love to go. I would love to actually go and get your tea, to be quite honest. So thank you very much, and I'm sure I'll be hearing from you. You'll be hearing from me
I'm sure.
in the nearest future.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
Thanks for coming along tonight.
Cheers.
So we'll move on to 22, 23, 92 ongoing items. It's receive information and updates on the following. So, being recalled. Carly, you got anything?
Well, as you know, the level of funders gone in. We should know in autumn sometime what the outcome is. As you said, it is for a major refurb of the pool, a rip out or keeping the building. They've not put in for the boutique hotel, as far as I'm aware. They've just gone for the
Town hall's not in the bid as well.
Yeah. So apart from that, really, it's just a waiting game. We are continuing to look at Bronze B&C, which is a public partnership, and taking over the pool. Again, the CAP transfer if necessary. And we've been working with Heritage Lottery Fund on things like that. So we're just keeping things ticking over really until we know the success level and not the bid. There isn't a great deal we're able to do at the minute.
I think the only other thing from our side is our reapplication for the pool to be an asset of community value was approved, wasn't it?
Yes.
So there is that slight hold on it if perhaps we want to select one. Okay? No questions on the pool? No. Move on to changing places toilet facility. Councillor Williams?
Just a brief update. The Astor Bannerman project manager was on holiday last week, but he was left with an email from us to say, is there any change to the scheduled delivery date, which was October the 10th, I think, from brief memory, mid-October anyway,
14,
certainly.
I think, was it? 14.
October the 14th, sorry. Bearing in mind that the foundations went in a little bit earlier than they are shown on the project plan. He's back on duty today. He hasn't received any input back from Healthmatic, but he has chased them again. He said he'd been to the factory twice in the recent weeks and seen our build in progress, and he said the quality is really high. Both times he was there was a pod on a lorry for someone else due to go out, and he said so they're obviously in production and scheduled. So he's got the question about road closures, high abs and things like that, and he said he doesn't anticipate any issues, but as soon as he gets an email back from Healthmatic, he'll be back in touch with me. So that's really the update.
On the plan, although it could well change, it's the 19th of September that it's actually meant to get delivered.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A lot. Yeah.
But then it needs fitting in.
Yes.
So, I mean, I've got a question, which is, it's possibly time that the Changing Places working group wants to work out how we're going to accept it and how we're going to open it.
With the Lady Mayor, I guess.
Opening,
Yeah.
but something we need to
Yeah.
pick up on.
Yeah. I've got Mark here, and I presume though we haven't met this year since May. So did we all stand again?
It's you, Lewis, and Abdul, isn't it?
Okay. Right. So we'll have a chat and decide the best time to have a meeting and crack that bottle of champagne.
So I'm assuming we will want a formal opening. some good publicity.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions for councillor?
No, crack on.
No? So I can see climate emergency, we did have Dale's not here, so the thing that he called about the peak on the moor, I think we'll table in September, but is there anything else? Anybody wants to raise the climate emergency?
Just in passing, Chair, I don't know whether you guys remember the Great Barrington Declaration under COVID, which was a declaration signed by many medical people around the world, and it was signed in Great Barrington. That's why it's called the Great Barrington Declaration. It was poo-pooed at the time as conspiracy theory and that, and strangely enough, many of the predictions in it are now coming true. So that's quite interesting. And the way it links into climate emergency is there is also a declaration which has a very euphemistic title, is There Is No Climate Emergency. That's currently signed by 1,107 scientists from around the world, led by Sweden. I think just in passing I'd mention it.
Okay. Anyone want to? No? Thank you, Steve. So we'll move on to 22, 23, 83, finance. So to receive the schedule of payments and the bank reconciliation. So, anybody got any questions on the schedule of payments?
So moved.
Second.
Councillor William Fox, seconded by Councillor Good. All in favour?
Yeah.
The schedule of payments. Okay. And then the bank reconciliations for July.
Proposal?
Yeah. Second.
True and Good. All in favour?
I've got points on the security incident policy if we're doing them all at once, Chair. That's
Okay.
Are we still on finance, are we?
Yeah.
I was just looking at Robert because he wasn't voting.
Ah,
Did you have your hand up to accept the finance things? Yeah, fine, thanks. So moving on then to 22, 23, 94, the policies. Do we have to take an individual account?
Yeah, I think so. If there's comments on each of them, it might be.
If there's comments, we'll take them individually. Okay, so anybody got any comments on the freedom of information policy?
Proposed.
Proposed by Councillor Good.
Are we doing them each individually?
yeah.
Yeah. The general privacy notice.
Propose.
Proposed by Councillor Trevor, seconded by Councillor Good, all in favour? Yeah. Are you with us? Thank you, David. The information and data protection policy, Councillor Trevor proposing, Habitable seconded, all in favour? Yeah. The model publication scheme, Councillor Trevor proposing. Councillor Good, seconded, all in favour? The security incident policy. This is all we have questions.
So on page 1 under reporting point dealing with an incident, we've got the chair's email. It says report the incident to the reporting points, the town clerk and the chair of the town council. We've got town clerk at, and we've got Philippa Gibbons at Bingley Town Council with no .gov.uk, so there's a typo there. And it's also in there as a hyperlink, whereas the town clerk isn't. So I wondered whether that was just a cut and paste error. But then it says Chair of Financial and General Purposes Committee, which I think is a cut and paste error, because it refers to you as the Chair of the Council.
Yeah, I did spot that.
Okay, well, I knew you would. And then on 3, it says, should neither the town clerk nor the chair be available, the vice chair of the council should be informed, so shouldn't Mark's email be there as well? Which leads me nicely onto a segue, is maybe the chair and the vice chair should have individual non-personal emails like chair at and vice chair at, which they could use in rotation to I see this has been updated in May 2023 anyway, by which time we'll know who the chair and the vice chair is for the next civic year. But and I guess having the names in there gives you the opportunity to reread it. But it was just a thought as whether there was a better way to go on that one.
That's a valid point, that thing, Steve. Just to put them down as sort of chair and vice chair rather than the name.
I don't know how we manage that, because obviously, you know, there might, if the chair changes and the new chair gets access to all the old chair's data, and sees what was written about him or her, could be a jar of worms. But,
I mean, there's obviously different ways we could do it. So we could just have a security instant email group that had the appropriate people.
yeah,
and
it just
move people in and out as appropriate.
that reporting point
Yeah.
paragraph needs looking at, I think.
Yeah. It's not updating.
Is there anything else?
No, but on that basis, I wouldn't be happy to sign it off. But if someone makes some commitment to fix those issues, then we could move on.
It could be accepted, subject to the following amendment.
Yeah.
Are we all clear what the amendment is? The amendment is that
Well, as a minimum,
to make a
.gov.uk, Chair of Bingley Town Council, and Mark's email. That would be the three as a minimum from me. So the type.
Or we set up a group
Well,
with
that's-
people in and
that can be
have
thought
it
about.
Security and
That could be thought about.
yeah.
That's not. I don't think. I'm not overly bothered about that from that purpose of that, because that probably has been signed off many times before.
Okay. So we're accepting it with those amendments.
Accept with them amendments, yeah.
Yeah.
So you
Proposed
propose
by
it?
David.
Oh, you seconded it?
I'll propose it.
Steve, you
Steve
support
proposed
it?
it, seconded it,
We're all in
seconded by
favour.
Councillor Hazelton. All in favour?
Yeah.
Okay, the staff, councillor and roll holders privacy notice. Councillor Goods proposing. Apple seconding, all in favour? That's unanimous. Okay, so moving on to 22-23-95, the Events, Marketing and Communications Committee. To receive an update and recommendations from the committee, the approval of the terms of reference. I know Councillor Williams had some comments on it at the last full-time council meeting. Are you happy with the revised terms of reference?
I did remember my comments, and for the benefit of the councillors, it was this shared responsibility for risk assessments between the F&GP and the EMAC, given that both of them report now to the full council. So I didn't want things slipping through cracks in the pavement. I guess if both committees are looking at the issues of risk assessments, then it's more likely that things wouldn't slip through the cracks in the pavement, was the way I reconciled that to myself.
So you are content with that?
I am content on that basis.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favour for accepting terms of reference? Yeah, thank you. The market update, there's been, I think there's no one else. Been at the meeting, so it's going to be me. So there's been a lot of discussion around how we improve the footfall and the stalls at the market, and what we can do in terms of additional forms of advertising and putting our message out there. There's lots of small initiatives happening in the background, but one of the things that the group wanted to bring to this meeting was, at the moment, the entertainment fee has been at £60 for a number of years. It's not so much a fee as more covering expenses. But if we bring bands in, and the general feeling is that if we have a band with more members, then they will bring more family members with them, and that will generate more footfall. But then that £60 doesn't go a long way between 6 people. So do we increase what we can pay to people up to a maximum of £150? We wouldn't automatically give people that, but it would be an opportunity.
So it should read up to a maximum of 150, not because it reads as other 150, doesn't it?
I think we'd start at, to make it easy for us, we'd say it could be up to 150 and let them drop it rather than negotiate with each one, otherwise it would take us forever.
Oh, I speak?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, are you proposing or are you asking?
No, I was going to ask a question. I was going to say that I think £60 for a musician to play at an event is quite a low amount to expect them to accept. I'd say 150, even if it was just one musician and guitar, for doing 2 sets worth of work of 45 minutes each, is £150 is on the low side. To expect them to come up, perform, you know, a few decent sets in which they are usually very good entertainers with their equipment. You know, whether the footfall's there or not, that's not their problem. Their role is to play some good music, which they do. So I think £150, you know, you should be paying that amount anyway, really. I would suggest. Otherwise, if you're just paying, like some of the artists that I see, very good artists that might be able to play in Point Shed or Martinez on the evening, that they'll be getting more than 150 quid. They're not going to come down for 60 quid and more, are they, especially nowadays?
Still 100 quid an hour.
Yeah, but they've got all that equipment, haven't they?
I get it.
To,
Still 100 quid an hour. My
It's a
plumber's
skill,
got
isn't
100
it?
equipment and don't get 100 quid an hour.
I think with it up to £150,
Yeah, it should be up
up to
to
150,
yeah.
not 150.
Not 150 fixed fee, no.
Somebody's willing to come for 80 and do a good term, 80 it is.
I agree with that.
It just gives us a bit more flexibility really, because some will say they expect a bit more, it might be that there's 2 of them, or like you say a small band or whatever. So I think if you've got that flexibility to negotiate,
Yeah.
it seems fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll propose up to £150.
I'd second that.
All in favour?
Okay.
You were saying?
I think it should be more, to be honest.
Noted, okay. Then I think the other thing on the item B is just the lack of council presence at markets. Again, the feeling from the EMAC committee is if we're trying to push the market and generate the market, we should be there supporting the market and we should be visibly there supporting the market, so that we should have councillors there available to, whether it's a surgery or talk to the people that are there.
As previously said, I'm still waiting for the EMAC to put in place a programme of topics, if you like, as to what we are engaging with. What do we want to engage? Do we want to engage with them on the neighbourhood plan, the Riverside Walks projects, the litter picking? We had an ideas tree at the Eldwick Gala with some tags on them. I'm still waiting for some feedback on what were the ideas that the people at the Eldwick Gala gave Bingley Town Council to do. Who's got hold of that? Who's doing it?
Ros has done that. And
I get that, but
no, I'm just saying she'll be working on that.
Okay, but that's what I'm waiting for the EMAC to get in gear and provide me, rather than me standing there for 2 hours with no one talking to me. Now I get that might be an issue for me, but you know that's the kind of things I'm looking for. Something to display behind me
Yes.
to drive customer engagement.
I think that is where it might need to
But
get close to.
are people really concerned about the council when it's a market they're looking to do shopping, aren't they? Are they really coming to look at the political side of things? That's what I always think, you know, I mean, we can be there and people are not really interested. You only get a handful and it's usually the same people that talk to you all the time.
Yeah.
So it's as though it's, you know, it's a little group, it doesn't go far and wide because a lot of people just walk past and are not interested because
You
they come to look
get
at the market.
nodded at, don't you?
Yeah, and it's you know, what is the value? And of course, not every councillor, since the council started and since the inception of the market, people have changed, and not every councillor's got the same commitment to supporting it. And that's the other thing we've got to be mindful of. And we can't get them to go there if they don't want to.
No, I agree we can't get them to go, but it does look I do think it does look bad, and we're not there supporting the market when we're trying to push it.
There's no
It's
reason.
not, it's not anything for us to vote on, but I think it's just something for us to think on, and how do we make it a more attractive proposition for us as councillors to turn up. I mean, Steve said what he thinks he needs to.
From that point of view, yes, Chair, I've said what I've said and I stand by it. But what about the markets in general? You know, what are Otley Town Partnership delivering now in terms of their gift to us, in terms of more stands, more variety, you know, this anti-competitive nature, you can only have one particular stall.
Well, that's gone. They are now allowing.
We have price competition now
We
in
have
there.
some competition, or we
Yeah.
should have from September.
Okay, well, that's good.
In September.
Because that, I mean, that's
we
a sort of,
we have opened that up, but it could be a double-edged sword. You know.
that's the market update I'm looking for, as to, you know, what would drive the customers there is something for them to get interested in.
Yeah.
It's not me, they don't want to come and talk to me, they want to come and shop. And it's that shopping exposition, experience, thank you. It's a shopping experience we need to drive, not anything else, not musicians, not me. It's a shopping experience.
I think musicians do help because they make it more of a.
Well, I get that, yeah. Icing on the cake, Chair. Yeah.
That's what they would.
Yes, on the question of council attendance at markets, I can't see why we can't have a reserve arrangement. There's 16 councillors. We could have a month when at least one councillor said they're going to attend, a different councillor. Everybody could go at any time, but I think as it is such low attendance, I think we ought to have a month assigned to each councillor.
Well, I think that's the problem because we're all voluntary. We can't mandate that people
Turn up
turn
then.
up.
It's not too much hardship to remember that.
I can't commit to a month. I've got a full-time job. I work 12 hours a day, and I've got my weekends. That's my time, so I can't always do that. Unfortunately,
Well, that's good.
I do try and come down to set up, but it's not always possible for me to stay 2 hours. I've got other commitments that I need to.
So I think that's the next thing. We do need to balance it with people who have to have a life as well as being a council. Then I'll move on. So communication, obviously now we've got the new admin system, there's more social media things going out there around the markets. The committee is investigating other mediums and the print medium, whether we can get in Bingley directory and have an advert for the market, or even just have an article about the markets and about the council more broadly, just so that people that prefer print medium obviously can look at that. And then the final thing.
Chair, can I just ask a question about the market? I was speaking to somebody, must have been about a month ago now, who said that the stall holders who reserve space with Otley Town Partnership, if they don't turn up, they don't have to pay the stall fee, which I think is if there's no sort of removes the impetus for them to turn up, and means they can just change their mind. And like last market, there was not many stalls there because a few of them just decided at the last minute not to turn up.
I mean, I think that is one of the things from the recent Bowden market, where the admin officer, where they do take the money in advance, and that might well encourage people not to drop out at the last minute. So
But that doesn't impact us, does it? That just impacts on the town partnership. Because we don't get anything out of it, do we?
well, we don't get anything out of it, but we get a market with holes in it.
Yeah,
We
it's
take
all
the result of the market with people in it because they've paid the
That's
money.
really for the town partnership to manage, isn't it? I mean, the big thing that we've got to worry about in the future is a market sustainable, given the potential problems that we're going to be seeing looming ahead of us. That's a big issue, isn't it? And we limit the market to what we have in there. We don't put clothes or anything like that, do we? Because it is a farmer's market.
if someone handmade them locally, then they could come with it as a craft store. But I mean, that is the thing, it is at the moment, it's a farmers and
That's right,
artisan type market. It's only the once a month. But we do need to generate some more football and do what we can to improve it. I mean, on another note that wasn't EMAC, we did meet with the Bradford Market people last Friday, and they are going to be redoing the electrics in the market square. Not so much a problem, but the lift up boxes are going to be replaced by permanent boxes in the same locations, because otherwise they have to dig up the market square. So it does mean there will be a cabinet where the boxes currently are, which is slightly set back from the edge of the square at the roadside. So it may be that once those are in place, we would need to do some work to prettify them, because they're going to stick up and stick out. So whether we put planters behind them or something, I don't know, but it's something I think.
There's a tripping hazard, aren't there, really? There's a tripping hazard.
They're too, I think they're too going to be too.
They're too big to be tripped, but you could walk into them.
Bumping hazard.
But it is something we will need to react. But it will mean that the market square is more usable, because at the moment I think they have 4 of these lift up things, only one of them works, and it's only that one location.
Can I just give information from that meeting? Bradford Council said that there were no electric for the Christmas tree, but that's wrong. There's a separate box adjacent to the tree, and it has power in there to light the Christmas tree. And we were asked to find out, so I'm just telling you.
Is that a floor box?
Pardon?
Is
Yeah.
that a floor box? Right, so that's something else that would need to be.
Yeah, it's just, I was just asking today.
You just need to make sure when they're doing the work, John, they don't cut it off.
Yeah.
That's a problem, isn't it?
Okay.
Well, it's a good point, because they said that there wasn't any, and I was convinced that there was.
Yeah,
But
but then if they start to wire it up and
So
cut down the wires, you're going to be in problems.
We will definitely go back to them and tell them that one's a bit to feed into their.
I think they said they didn't know, didn't they, rather than they didn't, yeah.
Right, okay.
But we do need to make sure that.
But I think I said I'd find out, so I found
Yeah.
out.
Well, they must have a plan of the site. Must have a layout, wiring layout of that job.
Yeah,
They did it.
so, yeah.
And then moving on to item D, the hub opening times. So there was some discussion, and there is a recommendation here for the council that we do change the hub opening times, because it's felt that 1 to 3, well, we know we don't get very many people dropping in, and it's a bit of a dead time. There was a thought that we may well get more people falling by if we change the opening times to 10 a.m. to midday. I don't know what people's views on that around the table might be.
So what's that mean? 10 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
And we till 12?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, yeah.
So the hub's open Monday and Wednesday 1 till 3. So
All right.
we'll change
Well,
it
that means noon, I
possibly
guess.
to
Yeah.
Monday and Wednesday 10 till 12.
All right. That answers my question, that's all right.
Propose, accept.
The
It's worth a go.
Yeah, I think it is worth a go. I mean, the only possible downside might be around the staffing, because we tend to have most of our evening meetings on Mondays, so we have staff members in.
We can work around it, can't we? Yeah. Let's give it a go.
So I'll propose it. I'll second. All in favour? All against? Are you against, Mark? No, you're abstaining.
Mark? Sorry? No, carry on.
You missed the vote.
And then miss a vote, yeah.
You're abstaining.
I'll abstain.
You're abstaining.
Is abstaining?
Abstain or mistake.
Did you abstain, David? Well,
Just sleep. Do you want to nudge you before?
No.
22, 23, 96. Finance and General Purposes Committee, receiving update and recommendations. Allotments issues will come on the next item. A recommendation to opt in to the smaller authorities audit requirements.
So moved. Seconded.
All in favour? Then, unfortunately, Ashraf's not here. We talked about the SIDS before. He's had further conversations with Bradford, who have recommended that we get volunteers to go to the training with Keighley Town Council, which will let us to understand what's involved with the process. So we're not committing at this point to have the SIDS and to put them up and look after them ourselves, but that there is a proposal that we do take part in the training so we fully understand what's involved, and then we can go ahead from a position of knowledge.
Can I just say, I spoke to Ashraf today when he phoned to send apologies, and he said when it comes to this section, just to say that he wants to volunteer. So that's one, and he thinks we need 3 or 4, so we possibly need 3.
But isn't Ashraf going to talk to Keighley Council?
No, I've spoken to Simon Diwali.
Well, from the meeting we had, wasn't he going to follow it up with
Yeah, we'll
Both.
liaise with Keighley Council to arrange a joint.
No, it's not Keighley that are arranging it, though, it's Bradford Council
Bradford
that are
delivering the
arranging it.
training.
So they're already going to arrange some training with Keighley.
I mean,
So
to
that
do
they'll
it, yeah, but to do the training as a joint thing, as I saw it. Yeah, that's
but
what I
it
mean.
will
Yeah.
be Simon Diwali at Bradford Council.
Right, I get it,
rather
yeah.
than
But
Keighley.
wasn't the indication that the Keighley volunteers would do it?
No, they need the training as well.
No, I know what the training, but I thought that through Ashraf's discussion with Keighley Council to see if their volunteer group would do our SIDS. That's how I interpreted
Oh
it.
no, that's not what my impression.
That's how I.
I think that might be a side conversation we have with them if we don't get volunteers, or
Or are
we
we
go
going to
to
get
training,
4 volunteers to go climbing
or
the
if we
mountains?
go to the training and decide it absolutely isn't something that we want our councillors to be doing.
Can I repeat my rather lamentable message that every time we volunteer to do or agree to do something, we should staff up appropriately to do it, whether it be external contractors or via our own officers, because we may not have volunteers. We may spend 13,000 quid this year on SIDS and have no volunteers in the next civic year to do them, and that would be leaving things on that post with flat backwards.
Steve, that's the point of discussion with Keighley, because if Keighley have got volunteers to do it, then they
I get that.
get them to do it.
I get that, but that would be a contracting out situation from my point of view, which is fine.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm saying every time we put our hands up and
No,
agree
I
to do
understand
something,
that.
we should be aware of the staffing implications.
Yeah. No.
Bring back Lee.
Does this mean that we have taken the principle that we're not going to get Bradford Council to do the work for us?
They won't do the
Not
work.
presently,
Yeah.
not presently.
They give them backward.
But they said that the volunteer scheme that Keighley Town Council already signed up for is only temporary. That they will, once they've got more staffing capacity, they will take over doing this.
Well, I'm very dubious.
I think we could end up with, as been mentioned, 15,000 pounds worth of SIDS and absolutely nobody to go climb a lamppost and set
It's
it
gonna be dangerous work for councillors who tend to be getting on in years, don't we, Mark?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Councillor Goodyear as well. to speak
Is
on
there
that.
anyone here who will join Ashraf in volunteering to go on the training? We're not committing to anything.
So it's actually setting up.
Yeah, no, it's changing the batteries.
Changing the batteries.
Yeah, it's getting up a ladder, up a lamp
How
post.
tall are we talking?
Fixing them,
No,
moving
I'm
them,
not
changing the
saying
batteries,
it's
extracting the data, all the
That's the only
lampposts.
thing, put your name down.
The easy bit,
We
changing
don't
the
let know
battery.
when it is, we have to get out of work now.
Councillor Beckford.
I'm happy to volunteer, but I'd like a little bit more background as the time involvement.
I'm going to assume that it's traffic management as well. I'm also going to assume it's
That's why
making sure the
that's
battery
why
is
I think
charged
we
before
need
you put it
people
up.
to go on
I'm also
the
going to assume it's some
training
sort of data capture.
to
He's
understand.
getting a chip out of it and downloading it into a PC with some IT skills.
They will.
I think maybe look at it as sort of fact finding rather than training.
Yeah.
Just send Ashraf a fact finding.
I'll go on a fact finding.
Well, Ashraf is going to go talk to Keighley. But he knows a lot of the council.
I'm
I'll go for training.
Okay.
That's 4 then.
That's 4. Okay.
Subject to work, if I can go, okay.
Okay, so we'll move on. D, to approve the volunteer policy attached and the recommended approach to risk assessments. The recommended approach to risk assessments is that as an opportunity comes up, we do the appropriate risk assessment, and that's what we sign up. We're not going to have a whole set on the shelf just in case something happens. So,
I'll propose.
proposed, I'll second. All in favour of the
Volunteer
volunteer
policy.
policy?
Oh, yeah, definitely, I've read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, best volunteer policy.
Moving on then, 22, 23, 97, the allotments, considering issues and recommendations. I'll say a bit and then I'll see what other councillors want to say. So I think that F&GP discussed numerous times around the various tree works that could be done. There's a lot of the allotment holders, I'm sure there's been a number of emails and representations that are coming today about recommendation B here, which is not to cut down some 9 trees at the back end of the site. We've had lots of discussion around it. There's lots of trees behind the tree, those particular trees. The general view of the F&GP was that cutting those trees down because of the trees behind them would have a limited impact, and it would take out 9 seriously mature trees. All the contractors who have given us quotes have said they can't take the debris away because they regard it all as too dangerous. So we'd end up cutting down these 9 trees that are all multi-stemmed, and they'd just be laying on the allotments anyway. So it might relieve some slight shade. There's some doubt about that as well. But it wouldn't, this would not bring an allotment back into use, in my particular view. So we've split the work off, the recommendation into 2 bits. The trees that are on the to the south and to the west side, which do cause shade and which the sun effectively goes over like that, so there's a major shade issue which we think should be done, and then the 9 trees at the bottom end. We don't think, the committee did not think that was a sensible thing to progress at this time. Andrew is our expert, do you want to say anything?
Really what I just said, totally.
Yeah, I think the fly in the ointment came when we were asked to remove the, saying that we shouldn't leave the stuff there. But I think that's absolutely a fair assessment, and I think what we should do today is do what we said we'd do at F&GP and move forward.
Yeah, second that.
Councillor Williams?
Can we take them as A, B, C, and then maybe D, which is the rubble that came up in the email today, which isn't mentioned here? Is that a thing that we're also agreeing tonight, or is that being agreed by the F&GP and now to do with this council?
We agree. It's been agreed by F&GP.
So it's not on the agenda. Effectively, it's not on the agenda. No, okay. So A, I'm happy with A.
Yeah.
Good.
Right. B, I'd like to take the trees out, to be fair, because if those trees are at the other side of a fence, aren't they? They might be on our ground, but they're the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
So wouldn't the logs be on the other side of the fence when they come down?
Yeah.
Therefore, home for robins and things like that, and jenny wrens, nothing to do with clogging up our space, because they could be stacked as a part of a forestry type job.
Yeah.
So, hang on. So taking them out gives the ability to then focus on the trees behind. Now, are they on our land or are they on Cart's land?
Some are and some aren't.
So we can then
refocus
refocus on that, because these are windblown sycamores as far as I'm concerned. They're they're not a tree hugger's paradise to be protected. They're in the way of people trying to gainfully get on with a job which we lease land to. And they seem to me, when I've been down there and looked at them, that you know, they don't add a lot, but they do detract from the pleasant enjoyment of our allotments, which we charge rent for.
Councillor Bennett.
I'm afraid that I have to totally, utterly disagree with what's just been said. I don't think it comprehends any work with forests whatsoever, because as we've discussed before, as I've printed out for you this morning, the reasons to counteract this argument, I just don't understand what purpose it would make these trees are coming out. If somebody could explain to me why mature trees need to come out, especially now, I'd be more than happy to hear it. If you take an outer tree away, which has got leaves on 3 or 4 sides, you take that away, the inner trees only have canopies at the top, and these are more susceptible to be blown over, so I don't see what you're trying to achieve.
Well, if they blow over, then presumably that's all good, isn't it? Because what we've got at the moment...
Well, let's go blow every tree over in Bingley. That's a great idea that would be.
They're in the way as far as I can see.
In the way of what?
Well, in the way of shading of allotment growers trying to grow produce.
Well, your house is in the way of next doors.
That's conflating issues, Andrew.
No, I'm afraid you're wrong.
Councillor Carney.
Can I just ask, I just wanted to ask what the costs are involved in this? Is it coming out of the money we've already made from the plots?
No, well,
Well, we have an allotment reserve that came across from Bradford Council that's sort of ring fence the work and what it will come out of that. It's cutting the trees down at the bottom is quite expensive. It's thousands.
Just because, you know, we've been made aware that when the council's formed, the allotments, but it was always agreed, wasn't it, that they pay for themselves.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying they aren't, I just wanted to ask the question, but I'm with you. I think this has rumbled on and on, and it's time that we sort of get to bed now.
We've got planning permission for it, we should get them out.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, we've only had these allotments for the lifetime or a bit less than the council. If Bradford who previously looked after them, I thought it was expedient or necessary to pull back the wooded perimeter. I thought they'd have done it in the last 5 to 6 decades. Those trees have been growing for say 5 to 6 decades. You know, we have been past these allotments by Bradford, and you know, in my view, we should maintain it as it arrived with us. Some trees are multi-stem wood, some crown lifting, but wholesale lumbering to maybe gain one plot if we look at it, I think is, in today's environmental awareness, us chopping half of that background down, I don't think would go down very well. Ecologically, I don't think it would go down very well either. So I'm minded to go along with what FGP have.
I mean, there is one argument that the allotment holders keep putting forward to us, which is that under the Allotments Act, we're not meant to appropriate the land for any other use. Well, effectively,
Sure, that's neglect. If these trees are 54 years old, which I've done the research that they are, if these allotments had been used, these trees would never have been permitted to grow.
no, I wholeheartedly agree, and certainly one of the attachments that was provided today for a different reason did not have plots 24 and 25 on it at all. They did 1974. So I don't actually know where these, when these may have become plots, because I'm not aware of them being, well, they certainly weren't handed over to us as well.
No, definitely not.
I just propose that we go with what F&G said, because John, I'm sure the experts.
Oh, well, that's,
But anyway,
no, I'm not an expert. No, I'm not an expert.
Two
I mean,
Well, expert that I am.
2 points of information for councillors. The last count of reserves remaining in the allotment budget was 15,585. So I think we've got capacity to deal with.
Just because we've got capacity doesn't mean to say we have to spend it, does it?
It's self-funding, Andrew, that's what I'm
No,
saying.
no, no.
And the other thing about it, from an ecological point of view and an environmental point of view, the tree people in Bradford have taken that into account when they granted planning
The
permission.
circumstances have changed since then.
Can we go back to what the recommendation was from the F&GP and let's push along on that line,
Yeah,
because otherwise
okay,
we're going to
so
go
that's-
around in circles and
So let's
It's
vote on
becoming tiresome,
recommendation
really.
A, which is to take out, to get planning permission for some additional trees, to take out to one side and to thin and ground.
I'll propose that.
Proposed by councillor Fenton, seconded by, was that councillor Williams?
Steve Williams,
Don't matter.
All in favour?
push ahead on that line, yeah.
Okay, recommendation B, not to pursue the felling of 9 trees at the west allotments at this time. Do you have a proposal?
Yeah.
Proposed by councillor Fenton,
Seconded.
seconded by councillor Drucker, all in favour?
Yeah.
So that, can you put your hands up? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
Against?
2 against.
You're against not doing it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there are, the reason F&GP said initially that we should take them out because there's planning permission for them, that I just stuck with that until our allotment officer representative started complaining about where the trees were going to go to. There is an argument to take them out, and that is on biodiversity. It would give, whilst trees are taking carbon from the atmosphere, etc., there's an argument, I've read it this week, that's the only reason I'm telling you about it, that if you open a space up, it increases more biodiversity because it takes away the shade. So that's why I've done what I've done. Okay.
What was the outcome of that?
It's not going to happen.
Okay.
And then C, which is the recommendation to commission tree and ivy clearance work pending the outcome of planning commission.
Propose that.
Proposed by councillor Goode,
Seconded.
seconded by councillor Drury, all in favour? Okay. 22-23-98, the neighbourhood plan working group.
So the neighbourhood plan rumbles on at one might consider it to be a snail's pace. We have got good progress made on pretty much everything that Bradford District local plan team threw at us. Our planning consultant is a gift from the Almighty as far as I can see. He's very, very pragmatic, very hard-working, very practical, and comes up with solutions for pretty much everything that's been thrown at him. The only fly in the ointment is the design codes and master plans, which you've all seen and we've all agreed. They need unlocking and updating. The very first problem is they've got 2021 written on the front of them. Now, as these are locked PDFs, we can't get into them to do the necessary changes, but I would also think they're copyright. So we've gone back to ACOM with a list of minor alterations we need for them to do. There's only one, what I would call major alteration, and that is the waterworks down Warren Lane are in there as a for sale plot of land, and it's no longer for sale. So it kind of kiboshes the entire Gilstead point of access, villagey type gateway idea that ACOM come up with. So we need them to restructure that particular paragraph. But the bottom line is the clerk's gone back to ACOM to say, could you open them? And they said, sure, give us more money. Basically they want us to apply for another locality grant to allow them to do another piece of work on them.
How much do we come on?
I don't know. I left the clerk with the mission to phone up locality and ask them if said grants were available.
I've sent them a message,
Right.
but I haven't heard back from them.
Okay. So that being the case, the ACOM piece of work is the fly in the ointment, and it's blocking everything at the moment. Other than that, we are pretty much good to go. We've gone out to the marketplace for quotations again to move our 80-page Word document to a more picturesque, easier to read PDF to be web-based with pictures and photographs and maps in it, and those need assessing. And but bearing in mind the locality application for a grant needs to be approved by this council, we've actually decided not to meet in September and set the next date to meet in October, which gives us the time to get the locality grant, to go back to ACOM, to get them to change the document as we need it to, and then re-engage with our consultant. That's why this recommendation to pursue further funding options. If there are no further funding options, obviously we will revert to this council to say we need more money. But at the moment, we are confident that locality have another pot that we can dive into.
But we don't know how much it's going to be.
We don't know how much it is because we didn't know how much the design codes and the master plan was. Our consultant says they were in the region of £18,000, but he's only guessing that from his understanding of other councils' master plans and design codes. But the truth be known is we never saw a bill.
All right.
So we don't know.
With the specialist elements, that's the way locality do it. They commission them and we get the end product.
It's a money tree.
Yeah,
However, the recommendation is in front of you to pursue further potential further funding options to update the design codes and master plan, and that's why we need the...
So you're proposing that here?
Yes, we need.
I'll second it then.
Thank you.
All in favour? Yeah. Right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. 22-23-99 Planning Committee. David, are you going to take this as
Gosh, yes, just let me find the minutes. We've got the minutes. I could find no issue with said minutes. The terms of reference, I've been through them a couple of times, and likewise, can't say that there's any major issues with it.
I'll second that.
So is everyone happy with the terms of reference? I think we're probably just
Yep.
to vote on it that way.
I propose them.
They've been proposed.
They've been proposed.
They've been
They've
proposed.
been
Seconded.
seconded.
Oh, right, they've been.
All in favour?
But it says ratify, so presumably we'll vote on it. All in favour of the terms of reference? Yeah, thanks. Okay. 22-23-100 community events. To consider these the following events. To consider liaison with the promoters of Bingley Weekend regarding gender balance. I think we said last month's meeting that we wanted a draft letter to approve or disapprove at this body, but Dale had been the person who had originally said they would produce it. It was not back till September.
It came back again onto the agenda because it was actually agreed to do that under the, was it public participation?
Can I speak against this, Chair, and hopefully put it to bed once and for all? I actually went to all 3 days of the Bingley Weekend. There was a Portuguese woman there on the discovery stage who was absolutely fantastic. There was a couple of groups on the new music stage who had women. The bass guitarist of the Pixies is a woman. I mean, there was women available on pretty much everywhere you looked. No, I don't. Sorry, for the purposes of YouTube, that's probably true, but that's not what I meant. Anyway, John, you could have said that. Mate, that's great. Anyway, so the point being about this diversity kick that this particular resident is on, it was a storm in the teacup. It's just non-factual, and to actually put restrictions on the Bingley Weekend organisation team from Bingley Town Council to go and do something different, to otherwise make it more difficult for them to stage that. This council should be behind Bingley Weekender. It was a fantastic weekend. It brought people into the town, it brings money into the town. You know, you name another sleepy little Yorkshire town that puts anything on to the magnificence of the Bingley Weekender or Bingley Music Live before it. You know, you're challenged to find anything of the scale and importance of that event. So I think we ought to be supporting it and not putting any obstacles in the way so that the producers of it just say, well, okay, we'll take it to Scarborough or Whitby or Whippen or somewhere else rather than Bingley, which has a reputation.
But it is a private event, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I don't think we need to meddle at all.
I don't think it's about putting restrictions on them. I think I'm behind Bingley Weekend. I think it was good for the town. I think if these issues aren't raised, then they can just carry on. And I don't think there's any harm with mentioning it. There is a gender imbalance in the entertainment industry. And okay, what are we going to do about it? There's no harm in Dale drafting a letter and us writing to people who organise Bingley Weekender saying thank you for putting on the event. We'd hope that next year you may be inclined to include more women entertainers. They're not going to say, well, you know, sod Bingley will go to Scarborough instead. They're not going to take their bat at them, are they, about it?
As long as they book Bananarama, I'm up for it.
The big thing is that the event's not run by the rugby club. It's a private operator who hires the rugby club.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with rugby club
Private
at all.
event on private land, we shouldn't be interfering.
I'll shock everybody and second Steve's proposal.
No, I would agree with it.
Well, my proposal is to reject A, so I'll be voting against. I'll be voting against it. So if anyone wants to propose it, is it proposed? It sounds like Councillor Dugan might be proposing it, but is it being proposed or seconded?
Dale's the one who's going to write.
Well, he's not here, so he can't.
So do we know if he has?
I haven't seen them.
No.
Because what we said,
Making a decision
like you
now.
said, we write
Well,
congratulations.
the council, that's
Yeah,
what we do.
success. We would encourage them to look for a bit more gender balance next year.
Okay, I'm assuming that the chap who came to the meetings also contacted them.
Yeah, he said
Oh,
he-
several times.
Yeah.
It's come to, can't check, yeah. It's come to us because basically they're ignoring it.
Right, okay.
I'd ignore him too if it wasn't on the agenda, to be fair.
Can we vote on it, Chair, please?
Is it been proposed and seconded yet?
I would propose writing to the organisers of Bingley Weekender. I will draft a letter thanking them for putting on the event, hoping that they'll do it for many years to come, inquiring if they had ever thought about having a more gender balanced.
Can you get the LGBTQ plus in there as well? And
Well,
maybe
that's not the issue. The issue is gender, isn't it? If somebody wants to bring that up, the thing is, men and women are pretty much 50-50 on the planet. In fact, women outnumber men very, very slightly. So it is reasonable to expect that men and women would be fairly represented or equally pretty much represented in most spheres of life. However, that hasn't happened because of historic because of women being oppressed by men. Now that is being rectified slightly, gradually, but you can't just wait for things to happen. organically, sometimes you've got to push for change a little bit, which is why we're here, to push for change. Otherwise, if we were just waiting for volunteers to do things without there being a Bingley Town Council, well, nothing would get done, and it would just be down to 1 or 2 people. Sometimes you need organisations to actually stick their neck out and say, okay, let's do something, let's just ask the question. What's the harm?
So that's your proposal then, Rachel?
Yeah, just write a letter. I'll draft a letter, and before
Well,
it's...
hang on, we've got to vote on it first,
Yeah.
haven't we?
So your proposal is that we do send a letter encouraging greater gender
I thought.
It doesn't have to be 50-50, just...
I thought Councillor Druker was going to write to them asking if they thought about gender diversity.
Yeah, isn't it?
And the
No,
answer
I'm not
therefore
asking,
would
I'm
be
not
no.
saying that they have to.
Well, if we vote, can we vote on it instead of going around in circles? I mean, it's
Yeah.
a straightforward operation to me. It's
So-
a yes or no. It's not an answer, second.
Let's go through Drucker's
She's put a proposal,
We've
who
got a
seconded
second
it?
then. I'll second.
Right,
All in
yes.
favour? All against? Fine. You don't send it.
What's the result?
You don't send a letter.
Right. Okay. Then next one
So,
is...
moving on, the event at the Market Square to receive an update on the request to keep the toilets open.
Oh yes, so we've talked to the cleaners about it, and they're happy to do. Phil, the cleaner, is happy to go at 6 and do the cleaning, but then make sure that the toilets are not left open, but left on when they can be used, paid for. And then he's going to go back at about 9:45, 9:45, and put them on close. So he's happy to do that.
Good.
Good. Then the World Cup and Christmas in Bingley.
Yes, I went to a meeting with Michelle Chapman and I'm Platoon. I asked at that meeting what I should report to Bingley Town Council, and Michelle's was sat there, she said basically there's nothing you can report back to Bingley Town Council, because at the moment they haven't even put in an application to Bradford Council. So there are all sorts of ideas, there are all sorts of ideas of working around the light switch on, the market, as in the light switch on event, because of all the stalls inside and outside. They had several, I say we, Michelle and them had several discussions. She got on the phone to Jamie Illingworth, and a view came up that they might be able to move the stage area to do the light switch on, but basically until they get permission or from Bradford Council, nothing can happen. So that's where we're at the moment.
So it's a bit of a
Is
wait
this,
and see.
is this jeopardising the fact that the World Cup is involved now? Is this jeopardising or inconveniencing the organisation of the Christmas?
Absolutely, 100%.
Right.
But they're trying to work. We're trying to work together, if you like. I say we, they, we.
The royal
No, yeah. That's where we're at. So.
So they were talking about pushing everything to one side because they were saying
Pardon?
the main Market Square at one point.
Yeah, well, they talked about all sorts of stuff about repositioning Christmas tree, but they didn't understand that it was 28 foot, 25 to 27 foot tall, etc., etc. They came up with, I say ideas like the buttercross is made into a Santa's grotto. They were talking about using there's two marquees, a large marquee, a smaller marquee, using the smaller marquee to make a grotto so that you could have the Santa Clauses for that light switch on day, and using some of the what do you call it, marquee space for stalls, so they move the chairs out, and it's going to be all, they envisage, well, it's going to be fenced all round, you see, the Market Square, and so it's not open access, it's a can of worms, but that's where we're at, and until they
actually got formal permission.
that's right, yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay. 22, 23, 101, green and clean. Consider any updates on green and clean?
Oh, sorry, well, we've organised a litter pick for Saturday the 10th, over in Canal area, Britannia Bridge. I don't know who gave Debbie the information, but she got it just right, so I don't know about Nicola. What about you? Is that because I said to you have it on the far side of the bridge?
Yeah.
I didn't know I'd done that. So when I just got it last thing. So the poster's absolutely fine. I've just started to write back to her thanking her, Debbie. Something that came up the other day, which it's on the agenda because it's green and clean, but I think we should be put on the next F&GP agenda is the revitalising the Green and Clean Forum. We have discussed this in the past. We have keep having ideas and coming up with it, and it keeps getting kicked in the long grass. And somebody asked me, so I'd like it putting on the next agenda, F&GP agenda, that we're looking to hold in one. I understand.
Would that be F&GP though, or EMAC? Would that not be?
Good point. Yes, good point. Okay. Well, yeah, enjoy the both. I mean,
Yeah, I think it's probably more F&GP.
F&GP.
to kick it off. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because it's under green and clean. Yeah. I don't know what the situation is with the watering now. We got an email from Bradford Council. From Yorkshire Water, you sent it, please. Outlining requests to councils. We have a contract, so whether they fulfil the contract, I don't know. I don't even know when the contract ends actually. Is it end of September?
I did try and contact Bradford about the watering contract, but I haven't had a call back yet from them.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's fine. That's just something we have to do what the law says. What was I going to say? Sorry, this is what happens, you see, breaks me train of thought. Move on, let's go.
Okay. Any questions for John on Green and Clean?
Oh, fine.
Fine. Alright, 22, 23, 102, 5 roads waymarking. I have seen a plan from Bradford Council as to where they propose to move put brown signs. I was going to circulate it, I only have it as an A3 sheet and it's almost unreadable, it's so small. But that's for review, but they have come back again with the question as to who's going to pay for all the sign work, so we'll go around that loop with them again. But they have actually put together a plan of where they think this is how you get to the canal brown sign should go.
In support of your project, I was down the station in the week and I was asked, how do I get to Five Wires Locks, please, from here? And I would have dearly loved to appoint them at the little badges on the pavement, say follow the yellow brick road, but no, I had to use words.
I did last, I think it was either last week or the week before, had a conversation with a couple of visitors to Five Rose Locks who said they followed the signs that point them from Main Street up to Park Road and they got completely lost.
Yeah,
so
not
yes,
surprised.
it is something that both things are things that we do need to progress. But actually having a proposal from Bradford is a massive step forward. That's it on that. Any questions on that? No? 22, 23, 1 and 3, grit bins. That's one of our favourite topics. Degree any actions. Received an update on the audit of the grit bins. I know Councillor Williams, I've seen that you've...
I was just going to say that. I was just going to, who are we receiving an update from?
I don't know.
The clerk?
You'll get it, David.
Deputy clerk?
off
It's not David, it's not David anymore. No.
paid officials.
All right.
Anyway, then
It's Ruth, isn't it, that sent out the spreadsheet, I think.
Perhaps a reminder needs to go, because I will hold my hand up. I haven't looked at mine yet, and we did discuss it, didn't we, Councillor True?
We did.
Maybe both of us have forgotten.
Well, it was going to be on Friday.
Well, I haven't forgot, I've done mine, but I ain't got a spreadsheet, because I haven't been. But there's a spreadsheet that David sent out last year, so can I have that, and then I can just put the numbers on
Can I?
rather than writing it all down individually, all my bills.
Can I just say, Councillor Good,
Yes.
that there was an initiative from Councillor Heseltine down there who said, I don't know anything about Teams, what is it, send me the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So presumably he's got it.
No.
For him.
No, David sent it out last year, didn't he?
No, I'm saying that he went back to Ruth. To
Now
say,
we got one.
Send me, so
Yeah.
your good self could have done exactly the same.
Well, I'm going to do that today.
And
So,
there's
can-
only
can-
one
can we
councillor
just
who's
treat-
filled in the spreadsheet,
Can
and
we
it's
just
me.
treat this as a reminder then for those councillors who haven't?
And I've got to get it on YouTube, there's only one councillor that's done it, and it's me.
What?
Filled in the spreadsheet.
Oh no, but I've done the
Somebody
survey.
can do the rest.
Well, I go around the room, I did them last year for you.
That's
That's on
So
YouTube.
councillors,
Well, you've got to go around and do
if any councillor can't get into Teams to see the spreadsheet, if they can email Ruth. So,
Yeah, I'm going to ring her. I was going to ring her tomorrow.
So that they
I don't
can
ring it
get a version
tomorrow. I'm going to ring her tomorrow.
And then we can end up with a coordinated spreadsheet. So
We can't determine how much money they.
Can we have one meeting, please? I don't think. Is there anything else on there we need?
We can't do the next one then, how much money would need to be spent, do we?
We could just.
Is that just refilling once, sorry to interrupt, Chair, when it says refilling and expenses, and it says refilling, is that just to top them up as from where they are now or throughout the winter?
No, once.
Where they are now, the ones, so the spread.
Previously, there was an element for refill, but we also put in that budget that goes to F&GP an additional amount of money to potentially have some additional refills.
Top ups in winter, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It would depend on the weather, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's weather
We don't,
dependent.
we don't necessarily spend it,
Yeah.
but we put it in the budget. If we don't spend it, then we don't spend it.
But as part of the audit now, we need to know how empty they are, to know how much they need topping up at the start of winter, so they're all full at the start of winter.
Right, that's the question I'm going to ask you. It doesn't matter in Bradford's case, but a lot of mine's 3/4 full. So they've actually had some taken out of them. But being the town council don't want to be paying 50 quid for, that amount of top up. So where do we go with that one, with Bradford Council?
I think we've usually
I
topped
mean,
up.
I've got a suggestion. I go dig into Bradford councils and put that in ours, and that'll fill. Oh, that made you chill. Never mind. Fill that up, and then then they can.
That's what I did.
Yeah, well, I put three.
Ruth can pick the bones out of it, we'll
Yeah. Well,
figure it out.
I put 3/4 or half or whatever.
I don't actually know if we fill up 3/4 on Robert.
Well, councillors might enlighten me in Billions, and those, especially those that lived here lifelong before relatives. Are there any steep slopes on unadopted roads that are dangerous if they're not wooded?
Are you on C? We're still on A,
Which
Rob.
one are you on, Robert? Which
Are there wrong item?
No, you don't write item, but no.
You are, you just jumping forward about 5 minutes.
I've no idea if there's any steep unadopted
No,
roads.
I don't think that's the issue, is it? I think the issue is if somebody comes up with one that's on an adopted road, we need to make the decision whether we're going to put one there.
We're going to
Unadopted.
consider it.
Unadopted, sorry. Yeah, I mean, if it's ours, there's no wrong with it, but to me, there's nothing wrong with putting it on an unadopted road.
It's in a group
If it's
place.
safe, if it's safe.
Sorry, we do B.
No, we haven't.
No,
No, we've
sorry.
got sidetracked because Robert asked a question.
Is that, are these both deferred then? Yeah.
So, are we on B or A, Chair?
I think we've wandered a bit, so in terms of audit, we've not done it yet, so we're deferring. If we look at B, B was about the form that Bradford fill in when we suggest new locations.
Can not the admin officer or the F&GP derive a very similar form and use that to come up with the assessment of any future.
What we can use the same for.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm suggesting. I know that the form was a bit secret, but
Not secret, the form isn't secret, and it's fairly comprehensive. I think it would just be sensible, as the other bidders have been done under that criteria, to carry on with that criteria.
yeah, Bradford don't want to do it. I think we should take that over.
So do we think an admin officer should do that, fill that form in? Is that appropriate? Do councillors need some input?
I think it would need some experimentation because it talks about slope. So I'm not sure how the F&GP or Ruth would know how to calculate a slope, or indeed metres above sea level. The grading thereof. But I think we should take it on the chin and see how it works.
I think we've had most observations from the residents over the years to where they want the brick bins put in. I don't think we've an issue of looking to put extra ones down with this.
Every year we get requests from you.
There's always a choice, isn't there? We always have more options than we have money. We had 11 last year, we chose 5, I think.
Down to criteria.
How do you put that criteria in place if Bradford is not going to do it?
Well, we need to look at doing that.
But is it necessary to put them where they want them? Because you tend to find it's somebody who, I want one here, but then they move house and they're not bothered about it.
We don't want it outside there.
Exactly.
The highways,
That's the problem. In fact, it's just
assessment.
a personal will. It's not necessarily beneficial for the community.
But the final location will still be down to Bradford
Council,
because they provide them. We would just, through the form, need to do the calculations to whether it scores enough points to qualify to actually get a grip bin.
Yeah.
So we're happy that we move that to F&GP, I think, and the admin officers to take forward.
For the ones that we're going to put forward, because there's always a first sift.
Yes.
There's always a first sift on sensibility.
So then C, to determine whether to adhere to Bradford Council's policy of not providing new bins on unadopted roads.
Robert, you want?
What's the logic behind that?
Well,
They're not council maintained, are they? Unadopted means that the people
But
on
the-
that road.
No, but so they can't agree.
They pay for water rates, they pay for bins.
Yeah.
They pay for bins and bin lorries to get up them, and the wheel spinning and things like that. So I don't see the logic of denying them more services
No.
if they pass the form.
Yeah.
So I propose that we don't adopt Bradford Council's policy. And we,
If they meet the criteria.
if they meet the criteria, it's an unadopted road, we don't care if it's an unadopted road.
Will Bradford support the bin if it's there and we have put it there? Or
We
will
pay
they
for it, don't we?
Well, we pay for it, but will they support it?
Yeah, they'll fill it up because you pay for that as well.
I guess.
Well, using your previous argument, if they go and empty the bins in that road, surely they can go and fill
Yeah,
up the
We'll fill it
road.
up for you because you're paying.
We've got a proposal in a second.
We've got roads that
I've got a vote.
all in favour, we
Yeah,
will,
vote
provided they meet the appropriate
Yeah.
criteria, we're
Yeah.
happy to supply bins for unadopted roads.
for that. Absolutely no problem with that at all.
We in favour?
All in favour,
Yeah.
against,
Everyone's against.
we're abstaining, is
Abstaining.
that corner, okay? Then D, to consider placing stickers on the grip bins discouraging littering within them.
I mean, everyone knows there is a grit bin, don't they?
Yeah.
I don't think a sticker, it says grit on there, it's a big yellow low bin, I don't think a sticker's gonna.
Sometimes it has the opposite effect as well.
I would say if councillors are going to go and look at their grip bins, do take a black sack with you because you will find litter in them. However, putting a label on them to say don't litter in this grip bin is a bit fuss bucketry as far as I can see. So we should not do that. It's just common sense.
It might just encourage them to put it in there.
It might do,
Signposts,
but yeah, it's just extra expense and fuss bucketry. We don't need to tell people to use a toilet because it's a toilet, you know. So.
Right, so
Well,
we're
Speak for
against
yourself,
stickers.
Steve.
Anyone who doesn't want stickers, that,
No, we don't need stickers for that.
Doesn't
Doesn't want stickers.
No
Right,
stickers.
no
No
stickers.
stickers.
You've had
Sure,
it.
This is not a litter bin, it's gripped.
It already says
No, it's a
that.
sticker
I
on the bin.
know, but you don't find something interesting.
You do. I found several things in there.
Did you want to say something?
Yes, I do. I would like to ask if the, who's looking after the labelling now? Is it still Rose?
Look after what?
Labelling, you know the labels?
Yeah, Ruth.
Labels, okay. So I'll need to talk to I need to know if we've got any sticker labels with the telephone number on, because we still have a lot of labels that just says bring the town council on, but that ain't a lot of good people if they want to refill and get in. So could we check if there is any? I don't think there is any in the drawers, but you know, in the drawers in the filing cabinet. Can we check that? And if we haven't, can we get some, please? I'm quite happy to continue sticking stickers on, and there's some that need replacing. So if anybody who knows where there's Bingley Town Council bins that the stickers have been removed, I think there's one at end of Falcon Road, there's certainly one at Gilwood Drive. Let me know and I'll sort it out.
So do you want two things then? Do you want the sticker that needs replacing and the sticker that doesn't have a phone number on it?
No, I think we have them without the phone number that just says Bingley Town Council, but to me you need something with the telephone number on so that people can inform Bingley Town Council when the bin's empty. Yeah?
So they will need that, okay, fine. Moving on then, 22-23, 104, civility and respect pledge.
Yeah.
To pass a resolution to sign up to the civility and respect pledge. Councillor Williams?
I'm wondering whether there's a typo in it. I'm not convinced it is or it isn't, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The sixth one. Our council will commit to calling out bullying and harassment when, if and when it happens.
Yeah.
I rather suspect the first when is superfluous. It should read if and when it happens. But with due regard to the title of it, civility and respect, I wonder how many people from NAUC, One Voice Wales and SLCC have pored over this over many, many hours and still issued it with a typo in it, which is why I wasn't sure whether it was.
I know you read that bit.
I think it's a typo, but I bow to superior judgment of people who understand English grammar a little bit better.
Yeah.
I think it's probably a typo. So,
You think it's a typo?
yeah.
Can we agree it's a typo? And do we have the ability? We've got it in Word, have we, Eve? So it came out as a PDF, but I want
No, you convert it.
you can't remember the software. You could have got the software. Got it.
Right. Yeah, okay. Sure it was the software.
Could we point, if we haven't got the software, could we point it out, if we haven't got it in Word and haven't got the software to disassemble it, could we point it out to wherever it came from and query whether it's, because we, I mean, other than that, I'm happy to support it.
Yeah, I am.
But,
Okay. So you're proposing?
well, it's already been, yeah, I would propose it,
Yeah, I'll second it.
but it needs to be,
Proposed on the condition that the typo is...
Typo.
Amendment, yeah.
Resolved.
yeah, we can all tick. Well, do we need to go down to each and every one and see if we tick it to agree it or not? Well, I think
It's the pledge's fault, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what you're accepting.
But it's like-
You're signing up to it.
it is, but it is like the annual governance, the AGAR. We have to go through that tick sheet individually to say we agree, we agree, we
Yes,
agree, we agree. So I'm wondering whether or not.
Well, has everybody read it?
Yeah.
I've read it.
You've read it because you've noticed the typo, so you've read it, you know.
I've read it.
Yeah, I've read it.
That's what I thought.
The only bit that I wasn't sure about was the bit that says our council is committed to training councillors and staff. Is that we have got something in?
Well, we've got a training budget, or we keep a training record, and we
And
send
it's voluntary.
training round every week,
Yeah.
like every other day.
The way I interpret that is if somebody requires training on civility and respect, that there is a budget with which we can take funds from to send them on civility and spectacles.
Which there is.
There we are.
So, yeah.
So is everyone happy with all the statements on that page?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so did we have a proposal?
Yeah.
Was that Councillor Williams?
And I could second it.
Councillor, all in favour?
Yeah.
Okay. B, to adopt the recommended dignity at work policy. Has anybody got any comments? The dignity at work policy.
No,
I propose that.
second it.
All in favour?
Yeah.
Are you two gentlemen? Yeah. Okay. 22-23-105, the town clerk's report. Receive the town clerk's report.
That's fine, no problem there.
Any questions for him?
No, I propose that.
Can I just
Oh,
say
just,
on that,
just to accept
You
it.
just receive it.
Yeah.
under the staffing, it just says about the new admin assistant and how well she's settled in, and she really has. She's brilliant, isn't she?
Good.
She's really good.
I really like the presence on social media.
Yeah, it's a really good tone. isn't it?
Yes.
Mm.
I think she's doing
I'll
really
take it
good.
off her
A
phone.
really good job. Okay, so moving on then, 22-23-106, correspondence. Consider this one for correspondence. So, emails from residents with concerns about fireworks.
You see, I think this is a problem because we've got an email there and we don't know heck it's about. But it's about fireworks. Is it somebody that's happy with fireworks? Is it somebody that don't like fireworks? Is it somebody, you know,
It's
or is it, what's it about?
I'm presuming it's about all the fireworks that are being let off at all
Yeah,
hours of the
which
day.
rates concerns rather than celebrations about fireworks.
Okay. Yeah, so,
I think we noted it's beyond that. Beyond that. Is there anything we think we can do to discourage people setting off fireworks on hours of the day now?
You go down Leeds Road, there's a fireworks shop there, isn't there?
And are they in our parish or outside our parish? It's in fireworks.
No, they're in this parish. Yeah.
Are they?
You hear them most evenings.
I can hear them, but
Yeah.
you know.
yeah. So, some
And if you go on the community groups, there's always somebody saying,
Oh, absolutely. No, I agree.
Yeah,
I was just wondering what we're going to do about it.
nothing.
That's parties and firework displays.
Noted.
I think it's something
I'm not
that's,
sure we can do.
No,
I think it's something that's being considered like at either like district council level or even a national level of like whether it should be banned to let fireworks outside of certain days, but that's obviously out of our control. So
It's not even Bradford Council's control, is it? It is a case of writing to your MP, I think, rather than...
It's an issue, isn't it? But it's a cultural thing, because a lot of cultures actually have firework displays, don't they? And they have parties and such like.
Yeah, yeah.
Can't we just note it, Chair?
We are, we're not going to move on. So,
sympathies.
emails from Brentford Council that our successful ACB nomination has been filled. I think we talked about that.
Noted.
Email from resident concerns nuisance noise from the Bingley pub.
Haven't seen that, so yeah, I presume it came out.
No, well, no, that's not what I'm saying. No, I heard it.
Not
Which
seen
one?
any.
Sorry, these.
Nuisance noise from a pub.
I've seen some of them.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What is it?
Yeah, seen some of the.
On about this is. I just had this conversation with Eve today.
Yeah.
That
Which particular pub? Is it one of mine?
How many have you got?
I've got two.
2 pubs, isn't it? Where's your other pub then? You got
Around the station offices.
That's not a pub, it's a fish and chip shop.
It's a pub.
It's a fish and chip shop.
I think it
It's
was
a
about,
bar. You look at it, it says bar, something or other.
what's it
Is
called?
It's
One...
bar first.
Mavericks.
No, down the side street rather than on the main.
oh, what used to be
Yeah, right.
What is it?
on the library.
Which
No,
which
it's
one?
open on a weekend.
Hawkins.
No, it's
Oh, Simone.
Oh,
Yeah.
The fire pit.
Yeah, fire pit.
It's a fire pit.
Well, is it the fire? Is it the fire
Down
pit?
the
It's
side
not open
street.
yet, is it?
Well, it is kind of, isn't it? It's not the main street.
I don't think it's open yet. They're redoing it up.
No.
Anyway, it's noted.
What's
We can't note
the, well, there's not really many.
Who the hell lives around there?
Is there any around there?
There's there are some flats, I think, above.
Behind it.
There's stuff behind it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's all them I move around, you know,
Yeah.
down Nottingham Street, what do they call that street?
Is this something that Pub Watch would pick up if it was up as...
You'll know by then, yeah.
Only if someone raised a concern, otherwise Pub Watch wouldn't know about it.
So if somebody raises a concern again, direct them to Pub Watch.
You could do.
Yeah.
You could do. It's got a Facebook page. It's more concerned with the known problem areas of the publicans themselves sharing information. That's really what Pub Watch is all about, rather than extraneous input. But, you know, they could do it.
Okay, so...
And more of your opinion that if you don't want to be disturbed by a pub, don't live near a pub.
It's a bit difficult, isn't it? Alright, so we'll note that. Well, the email from Bradford Council for the consultation on the alcohol public space protection order.
Just noted, isn't it?
Noted, you know, it's being replaced. We don't have a particular problem, but it's something it's one of their tools, so they can keep it. The next one was about the presentation again tonight, so we can pass over that. The next couple are things we've already covered on the agenda. So we go to H. The note from the resident requesting that the council prune trees in Eldwick and by Bradford Council. So I think that would be trespassing.
There's a can I say there's a typo, because the email says, could Bingley Town Council arrange for pruning of trees owned by Bradford, whereas this point says requesting that the council prune trees.
Yeah.
And it should be arranged for the pruning of trees, which means phone up 01274 431,000 and put it into the tree team. You know, and the resident should be advised to do that, because there's no indication on this handwritten note that she's lost her, or the person has lost her rag with Bradford Town Council, having tried for 6 years to do it. It's just like, could we just pass the buck and give it to Bingley Town Council to do? Well, I'm sorry, it's not our responsibility, it's Bradford, so...
How definitely Bradford's trees?
We can't contact this resident because it was an anonymous note through the door.
Well, in that case, could we direct the clerk to phone 01274 431,000 and put in a request on behalf of a resident in Barnaby Close that Bradford go and look at the trees?
Are they actually Bradford's trees, or are they...
Could be the schools.
Are they residents' trees?
No, they're along the road.
Barnaby Road, could be the school trees. Some are school trees on there, and some are council trees.
Well, let Bradford figure that one out rather than us taking it.
What we can do is ask Bradford Council for trees.
That would be my proposal, Chair.
The next one is the email from the cleaning company about rising costs.
Not a lot we can do about that, is there?
No,
Impact
in the contract.
CP toilets. The email from Better Buses for West Yorkshire Coalition about cuts to bus services.
Until they sort that out.
It was asked us to do anything.
I think it was asking for support. I don't know whether it was support or...
I think that was sent out. It was sent out before the agenda, I think, and I think it's all and was that asking for anything, that email?
I think it was asking for
Was there a
support.
consultation?
No, it wasn't a consultation. This is the thing, I'm not entirely sure what our response should be, other than...
I think I am aware that some routes are being cut
19th.
because a new company's taking over some of the routes, isn't it? And they decided to cut them.
Was this not a template letter to be sent to the mayor, Tracy Bradley, saying that she should stick to her election pledge to do something about bus services rather than anything else?
Yeah.
No, I see,
So
Do we want to send a letter to Tracy Bowen? I have no problem with holding elected officials to account for what they said in the past. So I looked at the template and thought, yeah, go for it.
Do you wish to propose?
Yeah, I propose we do it.
Second.
Oh, well, in
All
favour.
in favour?
to give us some.
And then the last one is more information, so we emailed Bradford about winning the City of Culture, asking what we could ensure that we could do, and we've got an agreement, a directive from the full council meeting in December, so that's just noted.
There were a few that came in as well after the agenda had been sent out. There was the message from the city solicitor about the pre-stop annex that you covered. And then one from YLCA with the analysis of council tax levels on local precepting. There was some emails about, well, an email about defibrillators in the area.
That's the one. So there was an email around defib, so for YouTube and for anyone who listens, it was more that Yorkshire Ambulance Service said there were a couple that hadn't been registered with them. So if someone phoned up and wanted to get the code to open it and get the thing out, they wouldn't be able to give it to them because they don't know about it. So if anybody knows of an organisation with a defib that's not registered with the Yorkshire Ambulance Service, or if you have conversations, encourage people to check that they are on their list, just to help everyone on that. Is that the thing?
Yeah, but I think they thought it was ours, but it wasn't, was it?
No, because they were talking about the one by the sandwich shop opposite the garage.
James.
James, and there was another one in Bringway, certainly that they didn't know about.
Chair, can I just raise the email I sent to Eve, but I haven't really done anything else, I haven't really got back to you on it. The one that
Oh, that you forwarded on to the ward councils.
Sorry?
The one that you forwarded on to the ward councils.
Yeah, well, I mean, you raised it, you won't, I just wasn't.
No, you're
It's
fine.
not done with it. So I got an email from the company that I think employ the security in Rise. I don't really know why I got it, nobody else did, but I did. And it was basically saying that there had public racism and antisocial behaviour had been threatened, people were dealing drugs in there, etc. So I forwarded it on to the ward officers and councillors, the district councillors, on each advice. Quite happy to send it on to everybody if you want to have a look, but I have no idea why I was singled out to get it. But just so you're aware that I forwarded that on because it's not something that we felt was in.
Was it actually addressed to you as a
Yeah.
So it wasn't like the wrong email address?
To be honest, at first I thought it was a spam or something, but then when I read it, because there was only me and then the other emails that were very vague. It was, you know, they didn't seem to be.
I find what happens is somebody might mention a problem on one of the community groups on Facebook, and then somebody will say, oh, Mo's who you need to contact.
Yeah.
And then that name's in their head and that's the person that they contact. So sometimes that's how some of us are singled out.
I will forward it on to you tomorrow when I get a minute, just so everybody can see what it says. But I have already sent it on to Andy Anderson and the district council.
There was also an email from a resident complimenting Councillor Fenton on his horticultural knowledge for the allotments. And there was also a letter from Keith, the Town Council, about the precept and how the precept was given in instalments and wanting our support.
Oh, the values of them, yeah.
So that last one was, because I think each council's over 250,000, and they were saying they only got 250,000 and they had to run 8 months on like 10% of their budget. So I think that one certainly.
So should Bingley Town Council be supporting that?
Yeah, I think before we do it, Robert.
I don't know whether I'm hearing straight, but have we expressed our own pleasure that Bradford has been selected as the City of Culture?
Yes.
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 Which is why that
We wrote to them, congratulated them,
Very good.
and asking for input to the festivities.
Came back with a positive answer.
You don't know.
So coming back to the key three. Come on, John.
No, I'm just like this.
Going back to the key three correspondence then about supporting them in how the precept should be split up for authorities with a larger family. Do we support that and write a letter of support? proposed, Paul?
Well, I don't know whether I think what it actually says is that there's putting it on the agenda of the liaison group, and I'm the representative for Bingley Town Council on the liaison group, so if it's brought up on that group, I just wanted to know direction from this council.
Are we supportive of the key?
I think we should support it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our money's all raised up.
That's my vote to that, so.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think it's important we support it.
And then when we do get a liaison committee, I can have somebody in the office to put me onto Teams to, if it is a Teams meeting. Hopefully it's a direct meeting where you can talk to people and not get on somewhere. Half of the battle is networking when you talk. You can talk to other councillors and so. But it's been on Teams, so as and when it comes up, I'm happy to do it. But I'll have to have somebody setting the computer up in the office that I can't have at home. Well, I could have it at home, but I'm not having it at home because I can't. Anyway, there we go.
Yeah, all right, we'll sort you out.
You're taking.
I'll take the point.
You're taking the point that
We'll
you
say
know.
yes, John.
Next business.
We're here for you, John.
When will assist you, John, to do that? So moving on then, 22, 23, 100% promotional items, to consider any promotional items, things to publicise from this meeting.
I've got three. The fact that we've agreed a whole bunch of policies, including the civility thing, we can group all them together. The change to the hub opening hours, and a notice to the public that we're open to consider new locations for quick bins.
Could we publicise the Community Action Bradford and District organisation as well?
I think so.
We'll do that, just let people know it's around.
Yeah,
I think also to know that the
Oh, can that?
ACD thing included,
Yeah.
what about the allotments?
That we're saving the trees.
I didn't think we want to promote it.
Well, just say we're doing some work there, that we're doing some, just addressing the attending the remedial works on the trees.
I think that probably is everything.
You want the allotments there on that? No.
22, 23, 108, meeting dates for November, December and January. There's a whole slew of dates there. Is everyone happy with that?
Yeah, so proposed.
Yeah, I'll say that.
Yeah, no problem.
All in favour? Yeah.
That should come as well, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
I presume they thought about it. Decided about it.
22, 23, 109, the date for the next meeting, so Tuesday the 22nd of September at 6:30, Bean Baptist Church, Clyde Street. And then we've got exclusion press and public, we've got nothing to discuss, so I bring this meeting to a close.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's